if you are able to withdraw your attention in the astral body, behind the astral eyes, in the core of your consciousness, and remember, this is the beauty of the consciousness, that it localizes itself in a single point in every form, no matter what the form is. If a human form is here, and it puts itself at a single point behind the eyes. That's where consciousness operates from. That's where attention goes out from. You go to an astral body, it pins itself behind the eyes of the astral body at one point. And you withdraw your attention to that point, and the astral body disappears along with the astral world. You withdraw your attention from there. Then what happens? Then you open up into another world, another level of consciousness. And this other level of consciousness is so remarkable. Some people have not been able to describe it. The yogis, some yogis, they were called param yogis, that means grand yogis, big yogis, who were able to have access and glimpse of this. When they were asked to describe it, all they could say is neti, neti, not this, not this, not this. They couldn't have any description to compare with the world. And here I am going to try an impossible task of trying to describe it, where the yogis could not describe it. But it is really in the form of stories I am telling you, that in the region where we are now going, which is above the astral region, or you might say within the astral region, we call it the causal region, the Karan region, and the body is called the Karan Sharir. That means the body that causes all things to happen. Karan means the cause of everything. It is the cause of every experience that has ever been created. No experience exists anywhere. No experience whatsoever exists anywhere, at any level, which is not created in the causal region. So first of all, see the dimension of that causal region. Secondly, the body has no form. It's not like this human body. Its form is created by a changing form of light. That means you can, supposing you say you are enlightened and your consciousness is made of light, and the light flows around you like a halo and becomes a very bright halo, and then nothing remains except the halo. And it's a very bright halo, and you make the halo circular, or you make it like an apple, or you make it like round, or like a pear, or you make any shape. You can make it straight, oblong. You can make any shape of it. That is the self. The upper part of that, behind that, is the I of the self. And that causal self is nothing but what we call the mind here. That causal self thinks all the time. It contemplates all the time. It makes patterns all the time. It creates building blocks, concepts of every kind. It creates concepts that give birth to ideas that percolate into the astral region. All concepts are created in the causal region and they percolate into the astral region. Nothing exists in the astral or physical region which has not originated in concept from there. See, I'm trying to say something that is very difficult to describe actual life there. But to make a story, you can see like a concept of a shape. Let's say shape, a triangle or a square. And you see some triangles moving around and say, hi, how are you? Oh, I was your friend in the physical plane. How come you're a triangle here? Well, this is the origin of all triangular shapes anywhere in the universe. I created the triangular system. Everywhere is the same. And what about this one? And what about that color, purple color? I made everything purple wherever it exists. I'm part of the spectrum. I created the spectrum and I put myself there. I just picked up myself and taken out this body. So although you have the halo, it can be halo of any colors, any shapes, And those are the origin of all concepts. All the concepts that have ever created anything arise from there. The ideas are a flow from the concept. For example, I'll give you just one simple example, that we need to sit down. All right, there's a concept. The concept of sitting down. You don't have to sit down, you can be flying, you can be standing, you can be doing something else. New concept comes up. We should be able to sit down. Okay, then the idea comes. In the astral plane, we make a chair. A chair has arisen from the concept of something called sitting down. If there was no idea of sitting down, there would be no chair at all. The chair has come, the idea of a chair, not a particular chair, the idea of a chair has come from the concept of sitting down. So the concept of sitting down, that you can sit down too, comes from there. Otherwise you would never sit down anywhere. So the causal plane creates the concept of sitting down, and we then translate it in many ways. Sitting on the floor, sitting cross-legged, sitting on a chair. Several ideas flow from that. Let us take one idea, the idea of a chair. The idea of a chair is born from the concept of sitting down. Then we have a chair. The idea of a chair is born in the astral plane. It's not a chair, it's the idea of a chair. It means something which is higher than the ground. We can sit on it. Maybe it has the sides and the back and different kinds. And we make millions of kinds of chairs in the physical plane from the single idea of a chair. The idea of a chair has come from the astral plane. Concept of sitting down has come from the causal plane, and we make millions of different chairs, and they're all the chairs have the same definition of a chair, same idea of sitting on it. It's amazing. Actually, Socrates has described it very well in his treatise and in his debates, where he talks of the world of ideas. Socrates taught Plato that don't go after argument and so on. Go after the reality, which is the world of ideas, which means the astral plane. Don't teach people to spend more time on the physical plane. Tell them how to go to the plane of ideas. And the world of ideas is the astral plane. The causal world creates all concepts which are responsible for every experience. Now, when I said use the word so rashly, every experience, somebody may question me, what about the higher spiritual experience? What about, you only reach the causal plane? That's just the third category. What about the remaining two spiritual planes? What about those experiences? They don't come from the causal plane. And I have to apologize and say, when I use the word experience, I use the word experience as we understand it, which can only take place in time and space. There is no experience above the causal plane. What is it? There's no word for it. You might say identification. How can one experience God? By becoming God. How can one experience the primordial soul? By becoming the primordial soul. It's an act of becoming, an act of being, not an experience. Because experience is always in time, and experience is unrelated to the experiencer. Whereas in the spiritual realms, the experiencer and the experience become one. So therefore, it's not the same thing. We try to make stories to apply the law of causation and the law of causal plane to the higher planes. It doesn't apply. So this third plane that I'm talking of, the causal plane, is the home of the mind. And we have now got rid of the physical body and completely unaware of it. We have got rid of the experience of the sensory perceptions, and we find that none of them were needed. That the capacity to grasp an experience existed in the mind without dividing it into sense perceptions. That we can completely combine hearing and seeing, touching and seeing, everything can be the same thing. That we can, if we say in the causal body, we have ears, we can see with the ears, we can hear with the ears, we can touch with the ears, we can do everything. If you've got eyes there, we can do everything with the eyes. If you've got any organ there, It can do all functions of all senses. If we don't want to use any organ, the whole system, the body, the lighted body, can have direct perception of everything. It's totally different from what we're experiencing. We don't realize that over here it is an artificial division. Perception is artificially divided into touching, tasting, smelling. It's an artificial division. It's not necessary. Consciousness does not need it. When do we actually experience? When consciousness can pick up all perceptions together in the causal plane. So the causal plane is a remarkable plane where all concepts, all possible modes of construction of experience exist. I would say these are building blocks of all experience are placed there. And we create them there. And then we realize that when we were in the physical body, our mind was constantly thinking and making up so much stuff. Where was it getting from? It is getting from the causal plane. Our senses were so active, imagining things, dreaming things. Where were they getting from? From the astral plane. So we come to know that this is not that we are going anywhere, that these planes were functioning even when we were sitting in the physical body. That all our concepts were coming in the physical body from the causal plane. That all ideas were originating and all perceptions were originating in the astral plane. And we saw them through the physical body, so we ascribed them to the physical body and the physical brain, or to the physical component of the self. These three are the makers and creators of all appearances, all experiences in the three worlds: physical, sensory, mental. And they are all governed by the power of the universal mind, which is the totality of all thinking. All minds are merged in the causal plane. We not only have the experience of individuated mind in one body, we can expand to be the universal mind and be the total mind of all minds. That's the top of the causal body. It's a vast region in time and space. It's a vast region, and in that region, all things are possible. You can expand as much as you like, shrink as much as you like. Dimensions are completely part of a concept that you use. All dimensions are part of concepts that you can use. So it's a very remarkable place. And once you are there, there is no way underlined that you can think there can be anything higher than that. How can you think of anything higher? Everything arises from there. Except those seekers who have been with a perfect living master, all of the masters have stopped there and thought that was the final stage. Almost all masters of the world who were not perfect living masters said that is the Sachkhand, that's the ultimate, our universal mind is the totality of consciousness. They called it the ultimate. Only perfect living masters came and said, do you realize it is still the region of the universal mind? Where is the soul? What is making that whole system conscious? What is giving power to that system? Where is the ability to experience that system in the causal, astral or physical plane coming from? Don't you see that life force is still a force that is powering all this? Where is that coming from? It comes from way beyond these three regions. It's not part of these. And does it mean that the soul we have, which makes mind conscious, which makes the sensory systems conscious, which makes the physical body conscious, is the soul separate from all this? And the perfect living masters say completely separate. It's the one that gives you the power, the consciousness, the awareness to function. All these three things. It lies beyond them. You go within the causal body and withdraw your attention. Again, the attention is still available, like it's available now. Withdraw your attention to the center of what you think is your causal body, to the point where you don't have any awareness of the causal body or the causal world. Causal world, or all the world that I have been praising so much as the cause of all things. What happens? You pull your attention there and you find that you belong to a timeless, spaceless state of being. And that individuated power of consciousness was the powerhouse that made all things alive. And that you are a soul. For the first time, when you rise with the help of a perfect living master above the causal region, you discover that you were never these covers, they are all covers. You thought they were the self. The self was hiding inside these covers. And you first time see who the self is. The self is the soul, pure consciousness, in individuated form, one soul, in the myriad of souls, all at one place, all in one time, experiencing a joy and bliss that was built into them. Nothing had to come from outside. Never needed any stimuli to get the joy and bliss. Bliss was dancing inside them all the time. That's our self. That's our real self. And that's the first time we find out that that's who we are. And we, completely bereft of mind and karma and all this stuff, are so pure. Our purity is nothing but bliss and joy. Our purity is a knowing of all the stuff without trying anything. A state of being forever and eternity put into a zero time. Is that our self? And what were we thinking? That we have physical bodies suffering in this physical world? So we realize for the first time what our true nature is, our true spirit is. Just for comparison, because the causal body is lighted up, it's got the light of, it's like several moons collected together. It's very beautiful light there. Though the sky there is like several suns collected together. The causal plane has a beautiful, like I said, there's a twilight zone in the astral plane. It's never completely dark. In the causal plane, it's always sunlight. But it's not a bright sunlight. If you see a setting sun, a golden sun that is setting, and stretch that sun and make it a whole sky, that's what the sky looks like. The causal plane sky looks like a sunset spread all over all the time, 24 hours. That's the beauty. If you see that, and within that are the moonlights moving around, which are individual causal bodies. So it's a remarkable place. It's such a beautiful experience. But then when you go above that, there is no time space to describe what the light would be like. But the light of a single soul would be equal to 16 of the physical suns put together. That's the light of a single soul. The point I'm making is that light of 16 suns put together is in the center, sitting right now behind our eyes. We can't see it. We are in darkness, complete darkness, with so much light of our own sitting inside the body. So when we go within, more and more light shines up. And we see so much light which these eyes can never see. They can never stand that light. But the inner eyes can see. At that time, when there are no eyes as we know it, we can stand any light. And our own self is resplendent with so much light. And the whole region is nothing but lit up consciousness. It's the light of consciousness. And that's lit up there. And then we say, now of course, we have reached our destination. We found who we are. Only perfect living masters of a certain category. And now I'm dividing them into two categories. The perfect living masters who can take you to your permanent reality, your permanent self. We call them Sadgurus. S-A-D-G-U-R-U in Hindi. And those who can take you still above are called Satgurus. S-A-T-G-U-R-I. The Sadgurus take you to the point which is your permanent, immortal self, your soul. And the higher Satgurus, both are considered perfect living masters. And those perfect living masters who take you still beyond, show you still have a cover upon yourself, which you cannot see, cannot experience. What can be the cover on a soul? Pure soul has no cover. They say the cover is of its experience of being individuated. That's a cover. It still believes it's individual soul. That's not the reality. The reality is it was never individuated. It was always part of the total. And they expand your awareness to totality and you discover you were never even individuated. And that is your true home, Sachkhand. So you will see these different levels that we go into. The physical level, All these 5 levels are operating. That's why we are alive here. That is the real life that's functioning in us. We go to the astral plane, the physical disappears, either by death or by meditational dying while living. And when you go there, the astral plane and all other planes are intact, working inside. You go to the next level of consciousness, the causal level. You have the beautiful orange sky, the golden sky, and you have no form, variable forms of your own existence in which consciousness operates. And all causes are taking place there, all karma is created there, all those DVDs have been recorded and placed there, all possible CDs are there of your life form which you come and play out here. All destinies are there, completely made up, ready to go. So all that stuff is there, and yet all these 3 regions, which are the regions of creation. That's what we call creation, because creation in our understanding is creation in time and space. And therefore, above that is the creative power, the individuated power of the soul, which is pure consciousness, and the totality of this consciousness, which is only one. There's no individuation. The individuated soul never left the totality. It just changed its awareness to individuation, and that's a cover, first cover. So first cover is individuation, second cover is the mind, third cover is the sensory body, fourth cover is the physical body, and we go to totality, the 5th region, and then we know what our true home is, where we belong. That's where we belong, that's where we are, that's from where this whole show started, and the perfect living masters are able to show us this while we are still in a human body, in this human life. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to die and wait. One day we'll go to heaven and then we'll go somewhere else. You can see all these stages and go through all these stages while you're still alive and you're still here.